It's kind of fitting it should all end down the pub. The good old boozer, that one unshakable cornerstone of British culture, has played a prominent role in all of Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright's previous films. The World's End features not one, but 12 drinking establishments, which when visited in order make up the Golden Mile, a legendary pub crawl in the sleepy rural town of Newton Haven. Back in the early 90s, a group of 5 friends, led by fearless schoolboy rebel Gary King, attempted to complete the Golden Mile, but fell way short of the final pub, the World's End. The boys are back to finish the crawl, but in Newton Haven, things aren't quite right. Without giving the game away, Newton Haven has been invaded by extraterrestrials, and the locals aren't what they seem. Don't think aliens though. The World's End has a much more interesting conspiracy operating behind its homely facade. Of course, the boys decide the best thing to do is to finish the pub crawl, making it to the World's End, without the world actually ending. If Shaun of the Dead was all about leaving the life of a student behind, getting up off the sofa and taking responsibility, and Hot Fuzz was about getting ahead in your career without forgetting your mates, The World's End wonders whether it's really possible to grow up without getting old. Gary's mates moved away, experienced success in their personal and professional lives, but they also became a bit dull. Meanwhile, Gary's exactly the same, pathetically so. Most of his jokes fall flat, as we see him through the eyes of his friends, a loser and a bit of a layabout. Gary's actually a bit of a problem for the film in general. He's really unlikable, to the point he might even put people off, such as the contrast with Pegg's previous characters. But over the course of the film, Pegg really taps into the pathos behind Gary's insecurity, brilliantly showcasing his ability as an actor beyond just comedy. The World's End is at its very best when it concentrates on being a science fiction film. The action scenes, while fun and frenetic as ever, never quite match the assault on the Winchester or the ballistic excesses of Hot Fuzz's final act. There's still plenty of the visual flair Edgar Wright is well known for. Crash zooms and match cuts are present, but it's not overdone. You get the sense there are more as callbacks to the previous films rather than the film's default style. 10 years have passed since Shaun of the Dead was released, and since then Wright and Pegg have experienced tremendous success in Hollywood. It would have been so easy to regress, to repeat the winning formula of Shaun or Hot Fuzz, but The World's End doesn't ignore the passage of time. In fact, it becomes one of its central themes. The film isn't as funny as Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz, but I get the feeling it doesn't really care about that. The ambition is slightly different this time around. The World's End is much more of a British science fiction film, where the weird and quaint sit side by side, interspersed with humour, rather than an outright comedy paying homage to a particular genre. There are still a few big laughs to be had, but there's also much more poignancy and melancholy. I suspect some audiences might not be expecting such a departure, but as the film rightly points out, to do otherwise is to become Gary King, trapped in the past, resting upon wilted laurels. The World's End ultimately succeeds where its protagonist fails, proving it's possible to grow up without becoming old. IGN gives The World's End a 7.8.